There's no place to escape to.
This is the last
podcast. On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
Honestly, you talked about this in the first episode, Marcus. The man is deliberate.
Yeah.
The man, Carl Panzram, was a mayhem machine. Of all, I like in our show, what we try to do is we demystify serial killers. We like to say, like, obviously these are losers. Bundy was a fucking horrible maniac that definitely should have been destroyed. Dahmer was a loser. Gacy was gay and all that, and couldn't figure out how to handle that in Midwest. Carl Panzram, though, really is a monster. And he looked like it. And nothing ever changed him. And every single time they punished him, he got stronger and stronger, like he was some kind of big, burly, gay rogue.
No, it's more like the Hulk. The angrier Panzram gets, the stronger Panzram gets.
It is more like the Hulk.
And that's the funny thing about him is that, just physically, he was not that large. He was like 5'9", maybe 5'10", 190. But every person who talks about Panzram talks about how gigantic he was. And that was just a sheer force of presence. That was just his personality that made him look so gigantic. This is what he wrote.
My whole mind was bent on figuring out different ways to annoy and punish my enemies, and everybody was my enemy.
I'm going to say the word annoy. It's like Holden McNeely from the Round Table is annoying. But this
think about how evil that is, actually, Kissel. That's how evil it is. It's all levels. He does not care just about it. Like, it'd be different if he also was into, like, of course, he liked the murder and he liked and the robbing and all that stuff. But he also just liked to bother you online waiting for the bus.
Yeah. So it's just like, if I just do a low hum behind this person in line, that'll really annoy them.
I'm going to say, what's his name? Bo. He's fucking...
Bo Bridges?
No, not
Bo Bridges. Don't bring Bo
He's
Bridges.
He's a real Bobby Bonilla. He's a real Bobby Bonilla. He really lived baseball.
That's the only sports reference you ever say. And
he just likes saying Bobby Bonilla.
We need an audience member to cut, or a listener to cut together every Bobby Bonilla reference and how somehow Henry gets to it.
Well, I think
baseball lived it.
Spree killing part 2.
And so last week we covered a lot of fun dudes, fun guys doing fun things.
Is that how you describe the people?
Yeah.
Is that how you describe Richard Speck? Fun guy doing fun things, raping 8 nuns.
He turned into a fun guy. I finally sat and watched the doc that you watched because I went after doing the podcast. I went to go look for as much of the prison tape as I could find.
Oh yeah,
and I couldn't find it except for the clips that you watched.
Yeah,
and man, he's got a set of perfect tits.
He really does. Amazingly
Heidi
perfect
Klum nipples.
They're perfect tits.
You want to suck on they're like little Malamars.
If you're in prison and you haven't seen a woman for about 30 years and Richard Speck goes in with a bunch of honkers like that, you can make believe.
The worst part was the dude sitting next to him in sunglasses just recoiled like he was on the beach at Ibiza.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at this 60-year-old man and he's just like, hey, you got them blue panties on? And he's like, yeah, you want me to take them off? And he's like, yeah, that'd be all right.
It's amazing.
It's just like this 6-year-old man just standing there, just going like, hey.
Yeah, the dude's just acting like Kid Rock at a strip club, just treating Richard Speck like the biggest piece of human meat.
Really enjoying him.
But now we're into some people who are these are the real deal. We're going to count down the top 3, but before we get to that, we're going to
this is definitely we're looking at the Bobby Bonillas.
That's right. Bobby Bonilla. That's your baseball reference. That's your baseball go-to.
Howard Johnson. The Mookie Wilsons.
The Mookie Wilsons.
This is all I know is Mets from 1984 to 1989. Those are the only baseball players I know.
Rise from your grave.
Well, one member of the Thule Society, he decided to extend his influence into the lower classes, and he founded a discussion group that eventually evolved into the Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, which means German Workers' Party.
Yeah, and they would just hang out and talk about shit, and then the German army sent Hitler in to be a spy on
them because he thought it was like, they literally thought it was a sort of like liberal group because they call it a workers' party. They thought they were all talking about bullshit. But Hitler goes in there.
This is all serendipity, by the way.
I picture Hitler in a French maid outfit, and he's just,
oof, it's so dusty in here. Does no one use any of these books? Then why do you have them? It's so, you need to get rid of your clutter. Wait a second. What was that about the Jews? Oof, I'm sorry, I've never been a mate at all. My name is Adolf Hitler.
Yes, and it's said that the Thule Society, the people who created the German Workers' Party, have been searching for a German messiah who would unite Germany after the humiliating defeat of World War I.
I don't want to step on any toes, but it seems to me that maybe I'm him, I don't know.
Well, the German Workers' Party had a lot of occultists in its group that were very influential to Hitler and his occult beliefs. The first one was Dietrich Eckart. He was the wealthy publisher and editor-in-chief of an anti-Semitic journal, which he called In Plain German.
Which is actually written in very complex German, which is very ironic.
He was also a committed occultist and a master of magic. And as an initiate...
But we're talking about like David Copperfield.
David Copperfield, yeah. He expressed his anticipation of the German Messiah in a poem he wrote months before he first met Hitler. In the poem, Eckhart refers to the Great One, the Nameless One, and whom all can sense, but no one saw.
But I just don't really understand. So all these people met Hitler, and they're immediately like, this is the fucking Bobby Bonilla of the Nazi Party.
From the very first time that he spoke, he went to the meeting for the very first time. He just kind of hung in the back, and then somebody that was speaking mentioned something about Bavaria, about how Bavaria needs to go off and do their own thing. But Hitler comes in and does this impromptu speech about how Germany, Austria, Bavaria, everything should be united. How we
must have one single living room. We all get together one night a week, finally have dinner together. We'll sit, we will watch some Scrubs, and we will have a good time and play some board games.
I love that idea.
Rise from your grave.
So how long of a spree here are we talking, Marcus?
About 45 minutes.
It's
45 minutes. So
that's all you need. It's like Michael Jordan. All you need is one basketball game to make a career.
I believe you also equated Ted Bundy to Michael Jordan. So
I ended up using Michael Jordan a lot because he's actually
the only athlete.
I look up to him.
He's the only athlete you know.
Emmett Smith.
All right.
Deion Sanders.
All from the mid-90s.
Yeah. And now
Bobby Bonilla.
Now you're just naming Cowboys. Okay, he's from the Pirates.
Dwight Gooden.
That's fine. He had a small cocaine addiction. That's all right.
Rise from your grave.
Now, I will say this. If you are looking for a fake name, this is a very easy way to get one. You listen to the Patreon shoutouts and just choose one. Emily Reed. Robert Jordan. Lena Weinberg. It's got an umlaut on it. Weinberg. Christina Carls. Brian Houghton. Robert John Perry IV.
Wow.
God. One of the co-conspirators with Timothy McVeigh. Danielle Pugliese. Brandon Nunez. Dan Bunyan. Chad Williford. Chance Kennedy. Hi, I'm Chance Kennedy, and this is your Action Sports. Oh, my God. Bobby Bonilla.
That is your only sports reference to this day.
Wait, Bobby Bonilla gives to our Patreon?
What? No.
Oh, that would be amazing. If we got
I'm
some
reaching
big
out to him, though.
Okay, please do.
Rise from your grave.
All right, we're on to Black Widows Part 2, and the stories just get better from here.
So as far as pure stats go, the female serial killer, specifically the Black Widow, is by far better at serial killing than their male equivalent.
Good job. You get the award.
It's so brave.
They have higher body counts and on average kill for twice as long as males. Put into sports terms, Black Widows are like the San Antonio Spurs of serial killing. Not too flashy, but strong on fundamentals.
Oh, I see. You're also saying they all look like Tim Duncan, which is not very kind.
But you've brought up the Spurs before.
Yes.
It seems to be the one team you truly understand, which I don't really understand why you know so much about the Spurs.
Marcus brings up the Spurs, you bring up Bobby Bonilla, and then that's the end of the conversation. That's the greatest sports conversation ever with Henry Zabrowski versus Marcus Marks. Bobby Bonilla, San Antonio Spurs, point counterpoint, show is done.
That's it. We're the new Barstool Sports. But the
Rise from your grave.
Now, one of the more interesting things about Pee Wee Gaskins is not just the myth he created for himself, but also the myth that the people of South Carolina created for him. For example, there's a story from a reporter who traveled down to Florence County after the body started showing up. At first, people said, oh yeah, Pee Wee's a nice fella, always comes in and treats me right. But by the time the 5th and 6th and 7th bodies came out of the ground, people started talking about how Pee Wee used to be pretty goddamn loose-lipped with how many people he'd killed.
And that's not what you want to do.
No, it's definitely not.
It's mostly the whole thing. You should probably keep your mouth shut about how many people you killed, unless you're really, really small and you probably didn't kill all those people.
Right. If you haven't seen I, Tonya, check it out. Sean in the movie is exactly what like Pee Wee. He just brags and brags and brags, and then sure enough, you get busted.
And you know what? That even extends to this day, this whole myth-making thing. I've gotten a ton of emails from people wanting to tell their Pee Wee Gaskins stories, and I do appreciate each and every one, but it just seems like just about everyone from South Carolina has a friend or a cousin or a grandpa that knew Pee Wee at some point in their life.
It's their Rascal Flats. I'm trying to think of a good person for them. It is their person that's deep within the web of their community. It's their Hank Aaron. It's their Bobby Bonilla.
You finally got to Bobby Bonilla. Wow. Yeah. There it is. 3 references. You will always get to Bobby Bonilla.
Rise from your grave.
Richard still had a long career ahead of him, and the whole thing had its foundations in the pornography business.
All right.
But he said he kept killing people who bothered him, or threw him out of bars, or pissed him off on the road. And each time, Richard said he was getting away with it. And the more he got away with it, the more he started to realize that he was really fucking good at murder. And more specifically, really fucking good at not getting caught.
But he realized he had a skill that should be paid for. It's like what happens in a performer's career at some point.
Yeah,
where you realize, I should be paid to do this. And he's more and more he's thinking about it, like, I should be paid to murder again. You know what? People, this is my umbrella. What was the name of that business book with all the umbrellas?
Why the fuck are you asking us?
I don't know what that was called.
It's something about umbrellas. I remember from when I worked at Borders.
LL Bean?
No, it had umbrellas in it.
Just
and
umbrellas?
It was something about get your colored umbrella. You better have a brown umbrella. I don't know what that means. You better have a pink umbrella.
So with your comparison, his open mic night for a struggling comedian until they got good was killing a bunch of homeless people on the Upper West Side?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
No, exactly.
And so he found out he wasn't scared of it either. Like when you go on stage for the first time, you're like, I can be up here.
Oh, he was never scared
Never
of
scared.
it. No, never scared. But I think this statement, as well as the fact that we know that he went decades without the cops even getting a whiff of him, even though we know he was murdering that whole time, that makes me think that he probably did murder quite a few unsuspecting people, as well as a few of those homeless men. I mean, he almost certainly exaggerated. But nobody is born the best at what they do.
You're right. It's about 10,000 hours, Malcolm Gladwell.
Being a fucking contract killer is no different. I mean, it helps to have natural talent, but even Michael Jordan had to constantly practice and work his ass off to become one of the best of all time.
And kill his father. Yeah, kill his own father.
We should cover that. I don't know. I
he
feel
didn't
bad
kill
about
his own father.
Well, he set him up. Yeah, he didn't, quote unquote,
he
kill
that's
his
a little
own
conspiracy. But Allen Iverson was one of the best of all time. He didn't practice.
Well,
practice?
Yeah.
Practice?
Well, how long did Allen Iverson last?
13, 14 years. He brought the Sixers to the finals.
Did they win the finals?
No, because he goes, the team worse than the Cavs, and he's 6 feet tall.
One of them had a 7-peat. The other one didn't.
Well, it wasn't a 7-peat. It was 2 3-peats.
7-peat.
No, it wasn't a 7-peat. It was back to back to back. 2 years off. Go into the conspiracy theory because he was maybe gambling too much. He went to hit some balls over the fence, and then 3 again.
Yep.
7-peat. He's no Bobby Bonilla. That's all I know.
That's all we know.
Because when it comes down to it, Bobby Bonilla gets paid to do nothing, and what is success but that?
Bobby Bonilla Day, $1 million. What a genius!
Rise from your grave.
Now, Richard was, of course, a talented hitman, but that didn't mean he was the only game in town outside of the DeMeo crew. Richard was about to meet a kindred spirit named Robert Prongay.
Robert Prongay is my favorite.
Yeah. Now, Robert Prongay is an interesting character because most of what we know about him is from what Richard told us. However, we do know he existed, and we do know he was a criminal. And some of what Richard told us about him is concretely backed up by a newspaper article found by the diligent research of the invaluable assistant Annie.
And you know for a fact Marcus is telling the truth because he hit the pitch of truth. Yes. So that is happening.
And we'll get into all that later.
Okay.
But what's a little fuzzy are the details. And unfortunately, Richard's story is about all we have to go on concerning that. So Richard said his first meeting with Robert Pronge was nothing more than happenstance. Richard was stalking out a hotel on the lookout for a mark when he ran into a shifty-looking little guy with bushy eyebrows in the elevator. And the guy gave off hitman vibes, but Richard brushed it off.
I love his description. They walk in because he's casing, because he does this like he does this very like, I'm a nondescript huge man.
Right.
Just a nondescript huge man who could walk like a cat. Walks like a cat everywhere he goes. Like a shadow he moves. And then he sees another guy walk doing the same thing. These bushy eyebrows. Tiny little guy like my size. Walking doing the same shit. And like, nondescript bushy eyebrow man. Just walking through a hallway. Moving like a squirrel. Absolutely deft. And quick and agile, moving like a squirrel. And then they go into the elevator together and they sniff each other out. They're both like, rubber shoes, bulky pockets.
Very interesting.
So he just brushed that first meeting off, but a couple hours later, they ran into each other again in the hotel bathroom.
This isn't good, and this led to the most competitive game of swords ever to be played on this planet Earth.
They must have peed for 3 solid minutes. Because the way it kind of plays out, right, is that Richard rolls up to the urinal. Bushy eyebrow man comes in next to the urinal next to him, right, and they're eyeing each other. He's like, how you doing? I'm doing good. How you doing? You here on business? Yeah. I'm here on business. Yeah, a little bit of business, you'd think. Some people go on business for a long time, some people for a short time. You here for my business? Are you here for my business? Is your business my business? There's lots of different businesses, but I'm not sure if my business and your business is the same. Business is business, and business is good. Business can be good. As of late, it has been. Sometimes it hasn't been. But today, it's good. So business. Business can be shared.
Good thing they're wearing rubber shoes because they are pissing all over each other's feet at this point.
They are having a long conversation, basically trying to figure out if one's trying to kill the other.
Yeah, and trying to see if they were somehow put on the same job. Like they just kept going back and forth. It was like, you hear from me? You hear? No. Good.
Oh my
You're
God.
Not? No. Okay. Good. Fine.
Good
luck then.
Good. Fine. So you're not here for? So you're not here for me then? No way. I'll never be here for you. Yeah. Well, if you're here for me, it would be nice to know about it. Get a little bit of pre-warning if you could possibly give me some. I wouldn't do it if I did, but I don't think you're Mark at all because you're too big.
It's a comedy of errors, Hitman style.
Turns out they were at the hotel on 2 completely different jobs.
Oh my God. Mondays. Wow. All right.
And so
what is
they said good luck and parted ways. Yeah, good luck to you and to you, sir.
Yeah, there's 2 guys in the bar just being like, no luck to either of you, please.
A few days later, though, Richard was sitting in a van outside the same hotel when he heard this noise behind him.
Ice cream. Wait a second. I love ice cream.
So the ice cream man has arrived.
So when Richard heard the chimes, he got out of his car and hoofed it to the ice cream truck for a soda. And who should be sitting there dressed in full Mr. Softy regalia but the guy from the bathroom?
Get out of here. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. It is like literally like, whoa, this is blowing my mind.
Have you ever read Carl Jung? Do you know anything about synchronicities?
Yeah, you know I do, buddy. I think we're off to a good start here, friend.
Yeah, they got to talking, and Mr. Softy is like, hey, my name's Robert Prongay, and this is my van. He's like, I use this van for surveillance. And Richard's like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Be kidding me.
I swear, like, this is incredible undercover work. That's awesome. Then cut to next week where he rolls up in the hot dog mobile. So it's Kuklinski in the hot dog mobile and Mr. Softy right there. All you need is a baseball game, and these two hitmen have just put on a hell of a show for the kids.
Honestly, that's a great movie, them versus Bobby Bonilla. And you get actual Bobby Bonilla to play himself in the movie. It's an action movie. It's like Passenger 57.
He'd do it.
Rise from your grave.
Well, more than 50 people died on the Meek expedition. Actually, more than what died on the Donner Party.
Really?
And even that wasn't as bad as another typhus outbreak that killed thousands in the gold rush of 49, when so many people died along the trail that you could find a grave every 200 feet in some stretches. And sometimes, when the man of the family died and the rest of the train couldn't spare anything to help, or their weight in the wagon was too much for the oxen to pull, the wagon train would just leave the women and children on the side of the road, just hoping that they could survive until the next wagon train came along.
Oh, that's definitely going to happen. They're going to be totally fine. That's where you want to be.
The societal structure was very interesting because it's true, because it was a sexist society, especially in the 1840s. Women were just viewed as either, they were essentially housekeepers, unless some husbands, obviously people really did love each other and there were good families, of course, like that. But as soon as your husband was dead and you were a free agent, it's not like a Bobby Bonilla where everyone's clamoring to get you.
Right. Thank you for the mandatory Bobby Bonilla reference.
It is like you're just stuck on the side of the road.
Right.
And people have to, out of their goodness of their hearts, take you.
Rise from your grave.
But in 1983, Origas died, leaving the renewed Order of the Temple leaderless. So Giray, who figured he'd built up enough capital both inside and outside of the order to make a serious run for the throne, tried taking leadership for himself. But his run failed, and the Origas family forced him out.
One guy that was a member of the Renewed Order of the Temple, in one of the docs I watched, I believe it was the Witness was the documentary series. What he said was that they actually did a whole ceremony. It was like, they came, we had the pomp and circumstance, Luc Giray entered, and we did the switching, we handed the scepter, and then the family was like, nope, like they're trying to get the whole ceremony going, and then literally people going like, stop it, you're not leader yet. But it's like, but I do not understand, we've already blew the trumpets. And it's just like, no, we can't blow the trumpets until we filled out all these trumpet firing forms.
Ah, interesting. So he was real close.
Really close, yeah. And a lot of members supported him being the leader. And that's when DeMombro got an idea. See, DeMombro, he's doing all right as a cult leader, but he was terrible at recruiting.
Yeah, because he was a little fucking troll. He was a very gross little man.
Yeah, and he was great at picking up weirdos who were already into this shit.
Right.
But he was bad at getting the regular folk through the door.
Yeah, you want to expand the base.
Mm-hmm. So when DeMombro saw that this good-looking, eloquent, charismatic Belgian named Luc Giray was looking for a new home, DeMombro asked him if he'd like to be second in command of something new he was cooking up, and Giray agreed.
I'd like to make an announcement to all of my followers. I have decided to take my talents to South France.
That's an NBA joke.
Oh my God, was that a
LeBron James joke.
Oh my God.
And that only happened 9 years ago. Yep. So we were at Bobby Bonilla, who has been retired for about 20 years. Yep. But now you're all the way up to 2007.
See?
That's amazing. Or maybe
I'm becoming a
2011.
full-fledged straight man.
Rise from your grave.
But all that was in England. In England, they used the axe.
Okay.
In Germany, they didn't use the axe. They used the sword. And as it is with most things German, and especially with German executions, the sword was precise, efficient, and instantly deadly.
Yikes.
See, the Germans beheaded their criminals standing up with the executioner behind them. The swordsman would then raise the sword, swing it 3 or 4 times in a circle to gain momentum, and then strike.
Whoa! Just like spinning in a circle. That's such a good way to attack somebody. I also
they would
didn't
spin in
know
a
that
circle above their heads. They wouldn't spin around in a circle.
Well, that would make
they
it
would
really
spin around like
difficult.
a 5-year-old trying to make himself high.
Or, it's like a birthday
I also
piñata.
didn't know. I also didn't know that the Bonilla family had German ancestors.
Bobby Bonilla, there it is.
Rise from your grave.
Well, the thing is about the Myers is that it is possible that they formed an actual positive relationship with whatever it is that's out there, but they decided to just not tell anyone for fear it sounded like lunatics. Because you got to remember, the Myers moved to this land in 1933.
Oh.
By the time the big UFO flap came to Utah in the late 60s, the Myers had been living on this land for over 30 years. If there was indeed something there, and the Myers were privy to it, they'd most likely made peace with it decades before. And what's more, they probably didn't even have the language or the cultural knowledge to describe what they were seeing. I mean, hell, Tom Gorman barely had the knowledge to describe what he was seeing.
Right.
No, he grew a vocabulary.
Yeah.
Because he kept seeing as much of this shit, and he's just like, yeah, there's the orange orbs, and there's the blue orbs, and then you got the sombrero hats, and you got what apparently are, we're going to get into portals to another dimension. Like, he had to figure this shit out piece by piece. And that took a lot of brain power from a man, it seems to be, most of his time is spent organizing his ranch and making cattle fuck.
Well, that is a strange part of the job.
Oh, when you're a
They do
cattle
the
rancher,
artificial insemination.
yeah, when you're a cattle rancher, I mean, your most of your day is spent looking for cattle and fixing fence. Looking for cattle and fixing fence. That's
Right.
it. That's most of the job is just those two things over and over again. Let's go out. Let's go check the cattle. Let's go look for the cow. Where's
Right.
the cow? I don't know. Get on a horse. Let's go find the cow. Oh, look, there's some fence that's fucked up. Oh, now we got to go fence
Right.
this fence.
Right.
Now we got to fix this fence all fucking day
Well,
long.
that begs the question, why'd you leave? I mean, that just seems like a dream come true, looking for cattle.
I found the cattle right here. It's inside this noose. Let's take this. No, it's very. But this is where what we have over we have an advantage over any other UFO podcast that could possibly cover this story is that you actually know cattle people, Marcus.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, I love this. Yeah, that's what I did before again. Yeah, exactly. No, we do have somewhat of an edge, I guess, but it's just mostly the edge of knowing how fucking tedious this job actually is.
Well,
But you weren't like the Bobby Bonilla, the cattle world either, right?
it's not getting $1 million bucks a year, that's for sure.
Oh, no, I was not the Bobby Bonilla. No, I came to New York City for a reason.
Rise from your grave.
There it is. That is this week's Side Stories. Thank you all so much for listening. And don't forget, we got some tickets available still for San Diego. Come on out.
And
to
Oakland.
San
We have a
Diego.
little bit.
And
We have a
Oakland.
couple of tickets left for Oakland too. So please get on that shit. I want to give a little bit of thank you to some people that have sent me some beautiful things. Carly Jerome, thank you so much for the Live, Laugh, Love embroidery that you made.
Embroidery.
We have
I
so
love
much
it.
of this. I do love it. I don't know. Can we be sued for this shit? For Triple L?
Live, laugh, love? No, that's not. I don't think it's catchphrased.
Yeah, no one said anything to it. I haven't got enough fucking. Because it's like, I imagine who'd own it. It's somebody like Oprah.
Yeah, no, Live, Laugh, Love, man. That's universal. That's like the Happy Birthday song.
I want to say thank you to Max. Well, the fucking birthday song was owned for a long time.
Well, it's not anymore.
It's not anymore, but it was. So does somebody own it
Live,
yet?
Laugh, Love is going to be okay. No, it's
Do
not
we
owned
need
yet.
to own it?
No, we don't need to own it.
I don't want to own it. I believe that every idea should be free.
Okay.
I don't want to own it.
All right.
Okay. So this comes from Max. He sent me a wonderful pop-up cardboard of the only baseball player that exists, Bobby Bonilla. But he did send it from when he played with the Pirates, which is not as fun. And that's fine, though. But thank you so much for that, Max. It's very, very nice.
Rise from your grave.
But Henry, we can't, before we start the show, full disclosure, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, that roulette, I had a iconic roulette run. I had 11 numbers on the board. I had stacks of chips in front of me. It's funny because of all our fans are just big dudes. So it's just a bunch of big guys being like, all right, let's see what you got, man. I mean, we're not Leonardo DiCaprio. We weren't surrounded by supermodels. I like my beefy boys, and they were very encouraging.
You had quite a collection of hirsute young men staring at you like you were Bobby Bonilla in his prime. They were so entranced by your game playing, because I'll say this, right? So Atlantic City, yes, irresponsibly done.
Yeah.
We all got very, very drunk.
Yeah.
I know I lost $300 immediately.
Right.
But though I will say, Kissel, somewhere in a haze, you walked over to another casino. We left one location to go to a second location, which you're never supposed to do.
I know.
We went to another place. You were literally, and you were trying to explain it to me. You were like, hey, listen, I'll show you the whole map. The whole map is easy as pie. It's just you got to game it. You got to be smarter than the ball.
Your impression of me is a little bit more, it's more stroke victim than hammered, but I'll take it.
You don't know what it gets to. When it's not about just us sitting at the bar. It's you become a different type of person in front of the casino. It's like your eyes turn into little dice.
Rise from your grave.
And on the second day, more bad news came. 2 people who had bestowed land upon the Mormons in Ohio were taking the land back and were demanding that the Mormon trespassers return to New York. But this seems to have sparked an idea in Joseph Smith. See, at this point, Joseph was teetering on the edge of losing everything. And what else works better for a cult leader when people are losing faith than a change in location? But Joseph Smith was also smart enough to know that he didn't have the spiritual currency to move everyone. So Joseph announced that God had commanded that he and 30 of his closest followers should immediately leave for Missouri to scout for the city of Zion, and he got the fuck out of Kirtland before things could get any worse.
He literally just hopped on his horse and went.
Yeah.
Because he was like, just got a revelation. 30 of my closest boys and I got to go, and we got to scout. We're on a scouting mission. We got to do a location hunt, so we're going right now. And he just hopped on a horse.
Day 3.
Yeah, and just left. He just left, and then other guys were like, so are we part of the 30 that's got to... All right, we're going to 2. And they loaded up the horses and basically had to go find Joseph, and they fucking hightailed it out of town.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, and Joseph had reasoning behind this. He said that he couldn't perform miracles in Ohio because Ohio was not consecrated ground. But in Missouri, the blind would see, the lame would walk, and the Mormons would be free to build Zion upon the back of an already thriving settlement.
Of course, it's Missouri. I mean, I think that's all. I think that entire sentence is on their license plate.
Nothing is better than a state with the word sour in the middle of it.
And not only would they arrive to find a bustling community, but Joseph was sure that Oliver Cowdery, his first missionary, had already converted hundreds of these good, kind folk into Latter-day Saints. But when Joseph and the others arrived at Independence, they found nothing more than a backwater frontier town filled with hard-bitten, highly paranoid frontiermen. In other words, the absolute dregs of American society.
That sounds fun to hang out in, actually.
Yeah, it does, but not if you're starting a religion.
Nah.
Joseph, listen, all love and revelations. Again, no arguing with God. I mean, this is totally dope. I'm glad we left in the middle of the night. I love hanging out with you and our boys and these horses out here, just hanging out. But this place sucks dick.
Well, as far as how many people Oliver Cowdery had converted, it was not the hundreds that Joseph Smith had predicted, but rather 4.
That's less.
Yeah, that's enough for a quorum.
So Joseph pretty much said, "Fuck this," and left a contingent of Mormons in Missouri and went back to Ohio, 800 miles away.
You know what? I didn't listen to it first, but then I spoke with God, and this place does, in fact, suck dick.
And once Joseph got back, he began the most revelation-filled period in Mormon history. In 1834, Joseph had 3 times as many revelations as he had in the last 10 years of his life.
It was like Bobby Bonilla in 1996 with the Mets.
Well, how is it like that, actually? I would like to hear this. Why?
His peak.
That was his peak?
Oh, yeah, I guess. I remember seeing it.
Rise from your grave.
So
you know what it
gross.
is, too? It's also... I do believe there is obviously a modicum of skill, of manipulation that you have to do in these time periods, especially back in the day when they were first splintering off. When the groups are first created, they really have to create a hub of personality that makes people kind of join around you. But in Warren Jeff's specific case, you're now looking at 3 generations of fundamentalist, polygamist lifestyle. So you already have hundreds of children that have been engendered by a generation of schooling to receive the further teachings of Warren Jeffs. These people have been raised in such a vacuum, and because it's been built into their entire lives, it's their whole family, it's their entire existence. Warren Jeffs, who I would not call a charismatic human being, unless you just want to do capital C charismatic, where he kind of like is... It's kind of forced upon him because of his role within this society that has been specifically, literally bred to believe in this leadership style. That's what allows him to be so successful in creating an entire system of abuse.
Well, that's the thing when it comes to foundations. This is just, obviously they get, once the foundation is Joseph Smith, Warren Jeffs can take that to the next level. When it comes to sports, you got Dr. J, Julius Erving. He's doing a reverse layup.
Yep.
Everyone's like, unbelievable.
Yep.
Now, everyone does it, but you got to do it first. But you build on the next generation. That MJ's taken off from the free throw line. Now, freaking LeBron can probably do it from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
I feel like this works, but I also feel like I think it doesn't fully connect. I am not certain. It's for me, and again, it's like Bobby Bonilla with his $1 million contract moving into the future. You just kind of set it up at the beginning. You got to set it up in the beginning.
No, I get it.
I know you get it.
Yeah.
Henry only reads Dune.
Rise from your grave.
I'll see cocks, I'll see tits, I'll see bush, both kinds, I'll see butts. I like to see, I don't know what it is. I'm cool with it.
No, you know what? I'm actually cool with that as well. So Alexander, and what I'm not cool with though is this story. Alexander and his father were not the first men to accuse Mazzazzoli of sexual abuse. The suspect's family said the known accusations were well known. These accusations were well known, and they date all the way back to the 1960s.
It's almost like they didn't do anything about it. They don't really. It's like a whole like institutionalized like silence that comes from the very top. It's almost like it's an inherently corrupt organization, like the entire Catholic Church. Like the Vatican should be melted down if they actually believed in the idea of feeding the poor.
Oh, absolutely.
Or changing society. That maybe they could sell some of the priceless treasures they have within that gigantic morgue they call the Pope's President Palace. That they could maybe, clothe and feed all the people they supposedly care about.
Absolutely. And of course, if you want to know more about Catholic corruption, look no further than the story of Mother Teresa. She took a lot of money.
She's a liar. She's a liar. She's a media whore.
She's a total liar. It's kind of, honestly, we still have Tom Hanks. That's all. Tom Hanks
honestly,
is still
I'm not putting any faith in an actor. Never put faith in an actor. They always have skeletons in their closet. He's got something too. Don't believe in him. The only pure person has been Bobby Bonilla. Because he's still making money. He made money just from the pure, the crowd roaring, hot dogs being sold, popcorn being strewn about, the boys in their tight little uniforms running around the diamond. That's pure. He's still doing it.
He's not still doing it. He's still making money.
He's still making money.
But that doesn't
That's huge. He's making money and not working. That's an American dream. That's the idea. He's the peak.
Rise from your grave.
After leaving all that, Oswald set out to assassinate General Walker. At about 8:30 p.m., Walker was at the desk in his study finishing up his taxes with the window shades open. And that is when Oswald took aim from a path behind Walker's home and fired.
How many anti-Semitic things do you think he said while filling out his taxes?
No, it was only a fluke of physics that General Walker wasn't killed instantly. Oswald was firing through a closed window, but because of his position, he fired through the wooden frame in order to try for the headshot. As a result, the bullet was deflected so minutely that it merely passed through Walker's hair instead of obliterating his skull.
Damn.
And the bullet lodged itself into the wall just to the left of General Walker. But instead of taking another shot, Oswald buried his rifle in its designated hiding spot near the railroad tracks and ran back home.
Super spooked.
Really? Yes. Out of all the practice,
spooked.
out of all the work, he already took one shot. I mean,
I'm gonna say you are stepping up to the home plate of your historical, metaphorical baseball game, right? Your goal is your Bobby Bonilla.
Do not mention
it's the
someone
15th
just
inning.
Someone just had to slam a bottle of pucker because they made a bet with their friend. I'm going to slam this pucker as soon as he mentions Bobby Bonilla, and you just caused a car accident.
I think you step up to the plate. You've got your baseball bat. You're there with the hurler. He's got his burlap, and he's about to throw a real humdinger down the alleyway, right? And when you are stepping up to the plate, I do think that there's a moment in time where you're very nervous.
Oh, sure.
And I think that the shot came out. I think he almost surprised himself. I think that he is such a loser that he actually never. There was one side of his brain that was telling him, you're going to be a historical person, you're going to change the tides of history, you're going to do all this shit. And there was another part of his brain that was actually entirely real and probably very very aggravating, where it was saying, like, you're mediocre, you can't do it, you've never succeeded at a thing in your fucking life, you've strung all of this together. There's the little nagging voice. And then you take the shot, and then in that moment you actually do become an assassin. And I think that after you do it, there's like a shock. Like, you're like, I actually did it. I'm not the total ineffectual asshole I thought I was. But then you scamper.
Rise from your grave.
Well, Lee Harvey Oswald most likely bought Italian surplus bullets along with his Italian surplus rifle, giving the Carcano excellent ballistic coefficiency, which means the bullet doesn't drop too much, great sectional density, which means the mass is distributed well, and very little kickback after each shot.
Ooh, you can just hear the erections of all the gun nuts that listen to us. And I love your Second Amendment rights.
Furthermore, Oswald had been trained in the Marines to hit targets from 200, 300, 400 yards away using nothing but fixed iron sights, and he was able to do it well according to the records. On November 22nd, however, his target was no more than 100 yards away, and Oswald had the added advantage of a scoped rifle. What all this adds up to is that Lee Harvey Oswald, perched in a stable sniper's nest with a deadly and accurate rifle, a clear line of sight, and training from the United States Marines, was well within means to murder the president.
There's a lot of people that also have run these tests, right, to try to say that it would be difficult to do. And yes, he was not a G.I. Joe. Like, he is not the ultimate super soldier, and it would be difficult to do. Right. But in moments of stress, like when you are doing something that means, quote unquote, a lot to you, right? Look at Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, Henry, this would be a good time to do a sports reference because they're under a lot of stress. They have to achieve in moments of very quick moments.
He's got to hit the ball, right?
But now, what was a Bobby? Do you have a Bobby Bonilla? Like, what was a moment of stress where he had to hit the ball? Do you recall?
What team did Bobby Bonilla play for?
The New York Mets.
He knew the Mets.
I know the Mets. But it was something. It was like the 12th inning, and it was a Thanksgiving Day game. I don't remember. But the idea is that sometimes with all the stress and but also the momentum of the feeling of the moment, you can rise to the occasion and make almost like a buzzer beater shot and kill the president.
He definitely did that. No, I mean, stress changes a lot of things.
Rise from your grave.
Now, Giselle Tremblay grew up in a tumultuous household with a cold, authoritarian father and an angry, abusive mother. Her father would take her aside and talk shit on his marriage, telling Giselle that when she grew up, she'd do best to obey and follow her husband at any cost, unlike her mother.
So he basically pulled her aside and just did Bill Engvall bits at her. I mean, like, his wife, like at her, and then she absorbed all of that, and then Bill Engvall became her personality.
Oh, that is troubling.
Well, Giselle listened. According to her, she spent her entire childhood preparing herself to be the most devoted, loyal, and loving wife a man could have. Predictably, though, this blind devotion resulted in a string of awful relationships.
Yeah, if men were good, this is really nice. But
they're not, though.
No. So
her first serious relationship was with a boozer named Robert. And boozer, by the way, that's the term that the Canadian author of Savage Messiah uses again and again. Love saying boozer. Giselle tried
so
matching.
It is so Canadian.
It is.
He's just a boozer. It's like raging alcoholic with massive psychological issues. He's a boozer.
Yeah, you make it sound like a name for a cartoon squirrel.
Yeah, it's like boozer, cool cartoon squirrel guy.
Giselle tried matching his drinking, but couldn't physically keep up and ended up in the hospital with burned intestines from ingesting too much liquor.
Wow, she was the Bo Jackson of alcoholism.
Was she hurt herself by doing it so
her
well?
Her mouth was too fast for her liver.
Yeah. That's a good sports reference.
Thank you. That is actually pretty good. Yeah.
Because he hurt himself. No one touched him.
You realize it's the only other one that I know. I know Bo Jackson, Bobby Bonilla, the best baseball player that's ever been, that ever
because
existed.
Of the contract that he got.
Of course, smartest baseball player ever be. Usain Bolt, he's fast.
Yeah, that's 3.
Wayne Gretzky.
That's 4.
Yeah.
One
Peyton
football
Manning.
player.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning works. That checks out.
Look and Robin Williams, improv sports.
All right, we'll count it just because he's passed on.
Rise from your grave.
So Queens and Russia actually probably have a lot in similarities going on, but they just couldn't quite get.
My favorite thing about Queens is expensive jewelry, cheap ass clothes.
That's what you do. A cool ass car with or cheap car with crazy accessories on the car.
And then
big
all
wheels.
of the clothes has to be bought at Mandy's, which nothing wrong with Mandy's.
Nothing
you go in
wrong
there in a
with
pinch, but if it's only the place you're buying clothes and then you buy these big chains.
And then you have the lights under the car.
Oh my God.
Do you remember those?
That happened in Wisconsin also. That was pretty...
and the whistle mufflers.
Pretty lame. So there's a picture of the pig slaughterer in a courtroom. By the way, the courtroom in Russia... It looks like a kindergarten.
Well, they have a cage.
It just looks like a night. Well, they have a cage, but this is her presenting, and she's showing the axe that she used to kill a janitor. And I am not exaggerating. This woman is she is the size of an ox. She looks like that chick from Australia, Catherine Knight. And she is holding this bludgeoning object and looking like Bobby Knight. Speaking of Knights, Bobby Knight, the former Indiana head basketball coach who became a huge Trumper, is a total psychopath.
Who?
Bobby Knight. She looks just like him after getting a technical foul. You don't know who Bobby Knight is?
I know Bobby Bonilla. I actually brought up John Daly early today. And Wayne Gretzky. Do I have to go back through my fucking list of the 5 people I know? Ken Griffey Jr. I'll add him.
You've already mentioned him before.
Sonny
anyway,
and Cher.
Those are not. He was
I love that tag team wrestler.
He was a
skier. Rise from your grave.
We are talking about a different way to destroy your family other than corrosive religious beliefs. Let's talk about John List. This story is, I'm going to say this. I'm happy that my dad never did that to me.
You know?
So I'm going to say this right now.
Let's
all
enough.
Thank our fathers for us being here. Thank you, Dad.
Let's do
thank you, Dad.
Thank you, Daddy, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Daddy.
I'm not going to say thank you, Daddy. Both of you guys are disgusting, and nobody ever wanted to hear it. Ugh.
But there is actual destructive religious beliefs already. They are in this episode.
Okay,
and it's riddled with
Central to it.
This topic, the family annihilator, is fascinating to me because right now I know you're sitting there. Some of you have families. And you're looking at them.
Everyone
and
kind of has a family.
Yeah, I'm seeing, but some people have made families.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, family you've created.
Yeah.
Okay.
And right now, I bet you're looking at your kids and you think, like, I did a pretty good job. If one of them's not, wasn't at the Capitol last week.
I mean,
you're
I
sitting
don't know.
there and you're sitting there and knowing that I've done a good job. But also at the same time, couldn't you think that if you had a second chance to make a new family,
right,
you could actually do, a lot better with the new family?
No,
so maybe
don't
it's
do it.
sometime-
Multiplicity, they just get worse and worse. The first family, I'm sorry to say, that was your best shot.
I don't know.
So
Sometimes-
the kid that you're looking at right now eating Play-Doh, the other kid who is actively looking at the toilet for some reason, those are the cream of the cream of your cream.
But you could look up to the Bobby Bonilla Family Annihilators, John List. You can look up to him and say he knew he just needed to blow one family out of the pipe first and then remake a new family.
Okay, so this is about reincarnation. Oh, great. All right,
It's about growth.
Okay, let's talk about John List. This guy is a monster.
Rise from your grave.
Because I tell you what, there's a lot of people that will call the way that my father raised me to be controversial.
Really? Okay, so you were watching the Tiger Woods documentary about how Tiger Woods' father raised him to become a champion golfer, and you're equating this to your family life.
When my father told me, number one, he's just like, being fat makes you physically strong. Right? That's what he told me, which is completely correct.
It definitely doesn't. You can't be gay and fat, so my son's straight. Look at him, he's fat.
I don't know, because then he was also like, every once in a while, he'd like hold up a picture of Harvey Fierstein like next to me and see if what the differences were. But I remember when my father first taped a microphone to my hands.
Oh, is that right?
And he forced me to, I used to run laps around the backyard giving one-liners. And I know, yeah, at the time people, it's Child Protective Services needs to take the boy away.
For
but
what? Trying to be funny? Trying to be a comedian? That is actually grounds to take a child away.
He didn't know that he was making, none of them knew that they were making, I'm going to call myself almost what's a good person? I'm going to say the
if you say Bobby Bonilla, I'm going to throw you off of the show and we're replacing you with just a toad.
The only way I'll ever be Bobby Bonilla of anything is once I start making money from not working.
Yeah.
That's where he's the king.
Well, he's a genius.
I'd say I'm more of the Steve Perry of comedy.
Oh, Journey.
From Journey.
Okay. I love Steve Perry.
I saw him have lunch.
You talk about, that's amazing, by the way. Tuna
Didn't
fish?
speak to him.
Tuna fish?
Yes.
Rise from your grave.
Now, unbeknownst to Billy, he'd been dropped into the middle of a feud that would, 3 months later, erupt into what was called the Lincoln County War, which I will now do my very best to explain in the simplest way possible.
I'm so excited for this.
This is Marcus Parks's Hall of Fame moment. This is his Bobby Bonilla lining up to sign that contract to make $1 million a year for 15 years. This is his moment.
All right.
Yeah, no. I mean, the stakes aren't that high. More, it's just like, this is me just trying my best to not get a call from my father telling me all the places where I was wrong.
Let me tell you what. And he becomes more and more Texan as it goes. And
He's an expert at this shit.
Marcus, when I looked at our family's history books.
It's where my love of history comes from. My father's a fucking Wild West historian.
I disagree with the preface that this is not high stakes for you, Marcus. That's the highest stakes you've ever said on this podcast. If Papa Parks gets upset, this show is done. So let's make sure.
Because he'll ground him. He'll ground Marcus and he won't be able to leave his room.
I know. The Lincoln County War. Let's get into that.
Rise from your grave.
Now, while there were plenty of kids dodging sniper bullets in the jungles of Vietnam who would love to have scored such a boring job during the war, Kraft felt like the job was beneath his station. Perhaps his unhappiness with his assignment was part of the reason why Randy came out to his superiors in the Air Force and was given a general discharge. After that, he moved in with his parents and came out to them as well.
But because you could see right in a way, because this was, not a lot of people did this. Right.
This is 1968.
Yeah. Not a lot of people did this. So there is a way in my mind that he did this literally to shake shit up as well. Like, he did it to get a rise out of people, I think, in a way. Well, normally I wouldn't say this, but for what he went on to do, I would say, like, I feel like everything in his head is a constructed game a little bit. And then when he came out to them, like, yes, I think he got off that detail because he fucking hated it, because he basically became a painter. He was like a house painter and he didn't want to do that. And then he also, like, understood, like, oh, I'm getting feed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting that psychopath feed, right? Like, I'm getting that thing that I need, where, like, I get a bunch of people all in a big kerfluffle, because the thing about it is that it really fucks with your, like, entire life. Getting a general discharge, like, it fucks your whole career up. Like, it's really hard to get a job because it's just above dishonorable discharge.
Mm-hmm. And of course, if you have any discharge at all, go to the doctor.
It's a good PSA. It's a real good
no
PSA.
problem.
It's really good.
When he came out to his parents, his father reportedly flew into a rage, but his mother was accepting, if disappointed. and Randy continued living at home while immersing himself fully in the local gay scene. Kraft got a job as a bartender at a gay bar called the Bowie Shed and began
some good names, some good bar names.
The Bowie Shed, my goodness.
Yeah, he began spending his time at other gay bars like Broomhilda's.
Cool.
And a place with perhaps the most non-gay name for a gay bar that is still obviously a gay bar. Stables.
I mean, you know.
I never thought about it. There was a bar in Brooklyn called Brooklyn Stable.
Yeah.
But that was horse themed.
Yeah, it was horse themed. Yeah, and I do feel like it's still horse themed, but it's like man horse themed.
Right, okay.
Now, it's unknown what exactly it was that pushed Randy into the world of serial killing. There's always a trigger. Possibly, it could have been his coming out, because oftentimes serial killers begin killing because they aren't able to handle setbacks or trauma like the rest of us do. I don't necessarily think that he came out specifically to make people upset. I think coming out for him was actually a very traumatic experience. I think he tried to force it.
Sure.
He knew what was going to happen, and so he knew exactly how everyone was going to react. But when they didn't act how he wanted them to react, he now has an excuse.
Yeah.
He has an anger spot. Basically.
Sure.
Well, it's not easy to do.
You create a trigger point.
No, it's not.
You do something now. It's like, now I've created what we've talked about for years covering serial killers, the little validations that bring you to the point where you have convinced yourself that killing is now compulsory. Like now on, all of these factors have driven me to kill.
Yeah.
And also there's so much shame involved. I remember when my older brother came out, he was like so nervous and stuff. And then I was on the steps and I heard it all. And then, it's not easy to do.
Oh yeah, buddy. This isn't a normal coming out story.
Very difficult.
This isn't the story of like,
Right.
John Waters or like, Bobby Bonilla.
Bonilla.
I don't know if I should even, I don't know. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like this is the story of Randy Kraft.
Right.
So it colors the coming out story a little different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely a different story.
Rise from your grave.
Now, the thing about serial killers is that while some, like Dennis Rader, can balance their public-facing life with their true self without issue, others, like Randy Kraft, eventually crack under the pressure. Perhaps there does exist a human threshold for murder that even serial killers reach, because by 1981, at the age of just 35, Randy was falling apart.
It's that 7-year itch.
Yeah.
I guess so.
I also wonder.
Do they age like athletes?
Maybe. Well, I think that BTK.
like pro wrestlers.
Yeah.
If you look at the number of victims, there actually might be something to that, where you look at the wear and tear on baseball players, right? Like the idea that
any baseball player in particular?
Just Bobby Bonilla got out when the timer was right.
Now let's switch it. Come on, let's switch it to Daryl Strawberry. Can we switch it to Daryl Strawberry?
Honestly, I think he's actually a better athlete because of how much he did while actively using cocaine.
That's true.
Really talented.
Rise from your grave.
Blackbeard, what they did know about him is that he wanted to be notorious.
Yeah. Furthermore, ports friendly to pirates were becoming fewer and fewer. Much of the Caribbean was now ruled by British authorities, and anti-piracy laws made the prosecution and execution of pirates far easier. Individual governors, officers of the crown, and even major landowners were given the authority to hunt down pirates and hold trials, followed very swiftly by executions. As far as what happened to captured pirates, though, that all depended on who captured them. When a pirate was captured by the Dutch East India Company, for example, he would first be flogged with a cat o' nine tails, then his forehead would be branded with the letter P for pirate.
Oh, yeah, okay, good, okay.
Finally, he'd be hanged from the yardarm of the ship.
Did we need to do the branding? Because I'm going to be hung anyway, so we could just go ahead and kill me, which seems to be the worst of all of them, but I've been screaming for now.
It is funny when you hear like Plainview, like as a town. Apparently that was something that was very reasonable. Pittsburgh Pirates. I guess that the P that they have is actually this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what also maybe connects me spiritually to all this content? You know who else was a pirate?
Who?
Bobby Bonilla.
He was. San Diego Pirates.
I did not know that.
Yeah, San Diego. Yeah, you know San Diego.
I did not know that. No.
You didn't know that Bobby Bonilla played for the San Diego.
Someone sent me that picture and I was like, wow, it's amazing what you can learn.
Yeah.
There's so much out there.
I always knew him as a pirate myself.
Interesting.
Big wide world out there, man.
It is.
It really is.
Rise from your grave.